Hey folks, it's Bill Gates here, and I want to dive deep into this absolutely chaotic situation where Donald Trump is totally losing it after responding to the Midas touch, exposing him on these Epstein files. I've been following this closely because, let's face it, Epstein's web touched a lot of powerful people, including me, in ways I deeply regret, and transparency is the only way to get to the bottom of it. Donald Trump is freaking out right now, and it's not hard to see why. Just this Friday afternoon, he had to acknowledge the reporting from Midas Touch. That's the independent media group that's been relentlessly digging into this. They exposed at least 1 million records missing from the Southern District of New York regarding the Epstein files that hadn't been turned over to the DOJ. And from what we've learned in the last couple of days, on the 24th of December 2025, the DOJ itself announced they've uncovered over 1 million more documents potentially related to the Epstein case, coming straight from the SDNY and the FBI. They're saying they need a few more weeks to review and release them, but critics are calling it a delay tactic, maybe even a cover-up under Trump's watch. I believe the Southern District of New York was trying to hand them over to the Department of Justice, but it looks like the DOJ has been covering it up, especially since we know both the DOJ and SDNY were aware of these million-plus records that the Midas Touch network spotted back in 2020. Get this, from recent reports on CNN and the New York Times, the DOJ is now admitting they have these extra million documents, and they're scrambling with lawyers working around the clock to redact and release them in compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. But Democratic lawmakers like Rep. Robert Garcia are furious, saying it's outrageous that Trump's DOJ has illegally withheld over 1 million documents from the public. Garcia is even calling for whistleblowers or anyone at the DOJ to come forward to help bring justice for the survivors. And Ro Khanna, who co-authored the act with Republican Rep. Thomas Massie, is keeping the pressure on, noting that after threats of contempt, suddenly they're finding millions more documents. It's like pulling teeth to get the truth out. So here's what Donald Trump just posted. And remember, the Midas Touch Network was the first to break this story. Quick reminder to hit subscribe if you're following them. They're on their way to 1 million subscribers. And you can see the real power of independent media. You can also help out by going to their Substack at midasplus.com. You see the stories they're breaking while corporate news just bends the knee or breaks down. Trump's post came moments ago. Now 1 million more pages on Epstein are found. DOJ is being forced to spend all of its time on this Democrat-inspired hoax. When do they say no more and work on election fraud, etc.? The Dems are the ones who worked with Epstein, not the Republicans. Release all of their names, embarrass them, and get back to helping our country. The radical left doesn't want people talking about Trump and Republican success. Only a long ago dead Jeffrey Epstein, just another witch hunt. Once again, Donald Trump is calling the Epstein files a hoax. He's saying it's a witch hunt. And with this new announcement of 1 million more documents, he's doubling down, framing the whole thing as a distraction from what he calls election fraud or whatever else he's obsessed with today. The amount of re-traumatizing of survivors, it's hard to even put into words what's happening when Trump keeps making posts like this and his behavior screams of a vile cover-up. Survivors have been blasting the DOJ for mishandling the releases, like exposing victim identities in the initial drops and then pulling back photos because of concerns. One of those photos even showed a credenza with pictures, including Trump himself. And now, with over 1 million more files in play, the fear is that more sensitive info could be mishandled or buried. Plus, from what I'm reading on X and in news snippets, Trump's been panicking over his own ties, like his multiple flights with Epstein. Reports say he traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously reported. including one flight where the only passengers listed were Epstein, Trump, and a then 20-year-old. That's from a 2020 email by a federal prosecutor in New York, uncovered in these recent releases. Trump called Epstein a terrific guy back in the day, and now he's demanding only Democrat names get released to embarrass them while yelling no more files. Classic deflection from someone with a lot to hide. Also, you've got Trump saying, go after the Democrats, embarrass them, shame the Democrats and shame them. But this isn't a political thing. It's not about shaming Democrats, Republicans, independents. What it's about is exposing this child sex trafficking ring and all the perpetrators involved, no matter their party. The Trump regime has been treating the perpetrators, the co-conspirators, the people hanging out with Epstein like they're the victims, while pulling this heinous stuff against the actual victims. As Midas Touch posted, this move is deeply offensive to Epstein's victims and treats a serious criminal investigation as a political prop, underscoring how Trump continues to mock the justice system while panicking over revelations tied to his own dark past. And yeah, recent batches of files mention Trump and even Mar-a-Lago. There were subpoenas for employment records from Mar-a-Lago as part of the Ghislaine Maxwell case. That adds fuel to why he's so desperate to control the narrative. The DOJ released 30,000 new files just on December 23, with more mentions of Trump, including those jet travels, and even some fake leads, like a bogus letter from Epstein to Larry Nassar, which the DOJ called out as fabricated. But why include fakes in the first place? It smells like incompetence or worse. Donald Trump was once a Democrat himself. When he was friends with Epstein, Trump was a Democrat. And I don't care what your political party was or your affiliation is, you deserve to be exposed and held accountable for engaging in this conduct and behavior. Look, I have to be honest here. I've had my own regrets with Epstein. I met with him a few times starting in 2011, thinking it was about global health and philanthropy through my foundation. But it became clear pretty quickly that wasn't the case. And I cut ties. I've said publicly that those meetings were a mistake, and I regret them deeply. It was never about anything illicit, but being associated with someone like that is something I wish I could take back. That's why I believe in full transparency. Release everything, protect the victims, but don't hide behind redactions or delays. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, which Trump signed, mandates this, but his admin is dragging their feet, missing deadlines like December 19, and now saying they need weeks more for this new million-plus batch. Now, as you know, it was several days back when the Midas Touch Network reported on the missing 1 million emails. Here's what they wrote, and Trump's now got to respond to it, and he's panicking, he's losing it. They wrote about this email from Epstein, SDNY, Southern District of New York prosecutors in 2020, suggesting there are approximately 1.2 million records being imaged in just one hard drive. There are likely other hard drives as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there are actually tens of millions of records, especially now that the DOJ is admitting to over 1 million more. You see this email from Friday, October 30th, 2020. The subject is phone call follow-up. It's from prosecutors to contractors in the Southern District of New York who are likely working on document production and document review. And it says, good afternoon. Following up on our earlier phone conversation, a hard drive with the following production is being sent to SDNY via FedEx with the following production in the US vs. Epstein workspace. Then it lists 1 through 7, SDNY production 8 through SDNY production 14, with SDNY production 11 having 6 subparts, 6-part production in SDNY 1. Then the drafter of this email goes, there are approximately 1.2 million records currently being imaged. The images will be available on Monday, November 2nd, 2020 at the earliest. The production of the records will begin as soon as the images are available in the workspace. The workspace is the electronic discovery tools that are being used to review these millions of records. So, in fact, it's very easy to access these records. Why? Because they're already uploaded on a workspace, so all it would be is, accessing the software where these files are uploaded, which SDNY certainly has, and then moving them to whatever document software is being used here to make this production. And of course, the DOJ was aware about it. They had access to this email. They produced this email. So they could have reached out to SDNY. And also, didn't Pam Bondi say that all the files were on her desk as of February of 2025? Remember that? Massey even reposted a video of her questioning if the files were ever really there. And remember when they said there were no co-conspirators, but now we know there were at least 10 co-conspirators who the DOJ were thinking about charging. Democratic ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia, and they're leading the investigation here into the Epstein files. They credited Midas Touch for making this discovery, which Donald Trump is now freaking out about. Garcia wrote, "New media organizations like Midas Touch are now critical to holding the administration accountable. Their reporting is making an impact." And in his latest statement, he's blasting the illegal withholding and calling for DOJ insiders to speak up. Now, Donald Trump's post moments ago about the million Epstein files that are missing or that have now been discovered, which were always there to begin with, that the Trump regime was covering up, also responds to Trump's Christmas message where he goes, "Merry Christmas to all," including the many sleazebags who loved Jeffrey Epstein, gave him bundles of money, went to his island, attended his parties, and thought he was the greatest guy on earth, only to drop him like a dog when things got too hot, falsely claimed they had nothing to do with him, didn't know him, said he was a disgusting person, and then blame, of course, Donald J. Trump, who was actually the only one who did drop Epstein. And long before it became fashionable to do so, when their names get brought out in the ongoing radical left witch hunt, plus low-life Republican Massey, and it is revealed that they are Democrats, there will be a lot more explaining to do, much like there was when made public that Russia hoax was actually a fictitious story and a scam. Oh, got it. So you're saying Russia was a hoax, 2020 election was a hoax. COVID, you're saying, was a hoax? And you're saying this is a hoax like that? No, I see what your definition of a hoax is there. But with these new files mentioning your frequent jet travels with Epstein, it's getting harder to sell that narrative. Thomas Massey, the Republican Congress member who put forward the discharge petition with Democratic Congress member Ro Khanna, responded to Trump. Merry Christmas to you as well, Mr. President. So you're saying that I teamed up with radical left Democrats to expose Democrats? Wow, this 4D chess sure is fun right there. And Massey's been vocal, pointing out how the DOJ broke the law with illegal redactions and missing deadlines. And also, you have the DOJ now saying, well, the documents we did turn over includes fabricated documents and fake documents, and you can't believe the documents we turned over. They are clear fakes. They go like the Epstein letter to Larry Nassar. They say that's a fake. So you're turning over fake fabricated evidence. You're hiding 1 million other records, now over 1 million more. Donald Trump's out there saying that his goal is to shame and embarrass Democrats. I don't think they could handle this worse if they even tried. The Trump administration's been hit with multiple community notes on X, for their posts about the files. Notes calling out how they're shielding high-profile names, running defense for potential pedophiles, and lacking transparency. Even Attorney General Pam Bondi, Deputy AG Todd Blanche, and White House aides have had their statements fact-checked and debunked publicly. But you remember what Donald Trump said earlier in the week. He says, they keep asking me about Epstein. I thought this was finished. Here, imagine playing this clip. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished. I believe they gave over 100,000 pages of documents. But now, with 130,000 pages released so far, and a million more on the way, it's clear it's far from finished. Trump even shut down a White House press conference when pressed on the Epstein docs. He just ran out, refusing to answer, or previously, when you had Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, saying Epstein, 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 all they do is talk about Epstein. Here, play this clip right here. Clearly what they've been trying to do, they're trying to attack President Trump. This is what they've done. They weaponized the justice system over the last several years to go after him. And this is their latest attempt, and they don't have a platform or a principle to defend on the Democrat Party side. So they put all their eggs in this basket. That's why you hear endlessly about Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Everything's about Epstein. But you remember that at the Midas Touch Network, they interviewed Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna, who is leading the charge with the discharge petition, and he's on the oversight committee. He's been there with Massey leading the discharge petition. And so what he told them is that there are a lot of potential whistleblowers out there as well. FBI whistleblowers, DOJ whistleblowers. Here's what he told them. Let's imagine playing this clip right here. I don't know if you can share this, but any FBI whistleblowers or DOJ whistleblowers who may be on the horizon, who's upset about the way this was handled, who may have information. We've had some approaching our office and the committee. Obviously can't get into get into the details, but there are people who are upset about the non-compliance of the law, and they don't want to be held accountable, right? Anyone who is at the Justice Department who's involved with this, who's not complying, could be prosecuted for obstruction of justice. Now, Pam Bondi's not going to prosecute them, and Donald Trump isn't going to have a just an attorney general who prosecutes them. But, in 2029, we're going to have a Democratic president, and that Democratic president's going to have an attorney general, and that attorney general is going to prosecute the law, not out of vindictiveness, out of just saying that you can't commit crimes and get away with it. By the way, I think that should apply to crimes, not just in violating the Epstein Transparency Act. I think it should apply to crimes with ICE crimes in terms of the strikes in the Caribbean. We need accountability before reconciliation. So if you're at the Justice Department and you know that you're violating the law, you probably don't want obstruction of justice charges brought against you. And that's why I think more and more people are speaking up. And speaking of speaking up, survivors held a news conference outside the Capitol, slamming the DOJ's handling as a slap in the face, with heavy redactions that seem to protect the powerful more than the victims. They're urging Congress to step in. On X, people are ripping into Trump. Posts like one from Richard England saying Trump's panicking over his ties, demanding only Dem names while hiding his own flights. Another user pointed out Trump campaigned on prosecuting liberals in the files, but now just wants to embarrass them and move on. Even MAGA supporters are questioning it, with threads unraveling his shady moves, like recessing Congress to block votes on releases or rushing attorneys to offer immunity deals. From Al Jazeera and The Guardian reports, the DOJ is under fire for not meeting the December 19 deadline, with senators calling for a watchdog investigation. They say victims deserve full disclosure and an independent audit for peace of mind. Let's go back a bit to understand how we got here. Epstein's case has been a dark cloud for years. He was arrested in 2019 on sex trafficking charges. He died in jail, officially suicide, but conspiracy theories abound. Ghislaine Maxwell, his accomplice, was convicted in 2021. The files include investigations spanning New York, Florida, even subpoenas to places like Mar-a-Lago for employee records. Trump's name pops up not just in flights, but in messages left for Epstein and old interviews where he distanced himself, but admitted knowing him well. In one 2002, quote, Trump said, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Chilling in hindsight, and now with these new releases, an anonymous accuser from 2016 claimed assault at Epstein's place, though the lawsuit was dropped. The DOJ calls it untrue and unfounded, but why redact so much if there's nothing to hide? The public reaction is intense. On social media, hashtags like number release the Epstein files are trending, with people from all sides demanding full transparency. Even Steve Bannon's been called out for hiding his Epstein interview recordings. Midas Touch has been pivotal, breaking stories like the million missing records, and their videos show Trump ranting on Christmas about sleazebags who dropped Epstein, claiming he was the only one who did it early. But evidence shows he hosted Epstein at Mar-a-Lago. Post-conviction in Florida, hypocrisy much, and the DOJ's rollout, botched, photos pulled, victim info leaked, fakes included. Deputy AG Todd Blanche says they're protecting every victim, but critics like Garcia say it's lies, incompetence, and illegal redactions every day. You know, as someone who's been in the spotlight for my own Epstein meetings, again, purely professional discussions that went nowhere, I know how damaging even the association is. I ended it when it felt off, but I should have never started. That's why I support survivors and full release. No one gets a pass, including me, if there's anything there, though there isn't. But Trump, his freakouts, like that bizarre Christmas post, or fleeing pressers show fear. He shut down an Oval Office conference when asked, saying it's no big deal about new photos, but actions say otherwise. Reports from Politico and Axios note the DOJ's now got 200 analysts reviewing, but why the sudden discovery after deadlines? Kana says it's because of contempt threats. They're finding files now. Well, there you have it, folks. This saga is far from over, with 1 million more files looming, congressional probes heating up, and whistleblowers possibly emerging. From the SDNY hard drives to Mar-a-Lago subpoenas, it's a web of secrets unraveling. Trump calling it a hoax while demanding partisan releases, that's not justice. It's obstruction. Victims deserve better. The truth accountability, no matter who it implicates. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Support independent media like Midas Touch. Become a paid member for exclusive content and ad-free videos today. And let's demand the full truth on these files. Now,